amazing Kate Casey.
Welcome back for another episode of Reality Life with Kate Casey. Today's episode has a story that feels almost impossible to believe, except it really happened. It's about love and loss, betrayal and revenge, and how one moment of retaliation can ripple through generations. My guest is Tamara Trottner, whose memoir, No One Saw Us Leave, is the basis for the new Netflix series of the same name. Tamara was born into a Jewish Mexican family in Mexico City in the 1960s, part of a comfortable, close-knit community. From the outside, her life looked idyllic. 2 loving parents, a privileged home, and the kind of security that most children take for granted. But beneath the surface, her parents' marriage was unraveling. When Tamara was just 5 years old, her father, Leo Saltzman, told her and her brother Isaac that they were going on a vacation. Instead, he took them away, kidnapped them across borders, across continents, hiding them from their mother, Valeria Goldberg. What followed was years of dislocation and confusion, new names, new homes, new countries, Italy, France, South Africa, Israel, all part of her father's desperate attempt to erase the life that they had known. Later, Tamara would understand that what happened to her and to her brother was what she calls vicarious violence. Her father used them as weapons to wound their mother emotionally, a term that didn't even exist at the time but perfectly captured the cruelty of what she endured. Eventually, after years of separation and legal battles that reached a court in Jerusalem, the children were reunited with their mother. Her father disappeared from their lives for 2 decades, but the emotional scars, the loss of identity, the fractured sense of belonging never fully went away. The Netflix adaptation shifts the perspective to her mother's point of view, following Valeria's relentless search to bring her children home. But at its heart, it's Tamara's lived experience that gives the story its haunting power. I wanted to cover the story because it's a true story and because it confronts some of the hardest truths about family, how betrayal can echo through love, and how retaliation can destroy what it seeks to protect. Her courage in revisiting this past, in reclaiming her childhood through her own words, is an act of both remembrance and resistance. So today we're going to talk about what really happened, what it means to tell the story now, and how she found the strength to turn trauma into art. Again, the series is on Netflix. It's called No One Saw Us Leave. And here is my interview with the author, Tamara. Mara, it is a pleasure to meet you. I got sucked into this story right away. A friend actually texted me and said, you have to watch this because it's based on a true story. I found myself watching 3.5 episodes late into the night, and I had to talk to you about the story. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I love your show. So it's a real honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, well, great. So I think the first question is if you could just kind of paint the picture of your complicated family dynamics with your parents and with your grandparents, because so often we'll see a TV series or a movie and we'll wonder how much it is similar to the real story.
Well, so the show is very similar to the book. The book was written by me and it is like based on my real story, at least on the memories I have of my real story, because I'm sure if you ask my brother, he'll have a different version, and my mother. But basically, what happened was that my father decided to kidnap my brother and myself the day of my 5th birthday because he was really angry with my mom. My mom had fallen in love with her brother-in-law. They had this relationship. They tried to stop it. They couldn't. And anyway, instead of just, filing a divorce, my father decided, influenced by his own father, my grandfather, to kidnap us. And he took us to Europe, planning on taking us to Israel at first. But then we stayed for a while in Paris, then in Italy, then the Interpol caught us, and then we had to go to South Africa. It was the apartheid. It was the 70s. So it was the apartheid. It was hard. And then we finally got to Israel, where my mom could find us. and the Jewish community in Mexico said, you know what, these kids have to come back after 2 years, and we have to make a trial and decide who stays with them. So that was basically the story.
And do you remember being a young girl, and like you said, like you left when you were 5, and it's so hard to access those memories. But did you get a feeling that your grandfather was this domineering figure and had a lot of influence over your father?
Yes, I didn't live it myself because, as you say, I was very young. But everybody used to say, no, Samuel is, so strong, so determined. Even his wife would tell my mother, be very careful with him because when he gets angry, he can do anything. So, yeah, he was very domineering. My father wanted to please him, but wasn't the person that he wanted him to be. So, yeah, my father was just more like a free soul, a free spirit, trying to be something, an artist. And my grandfather wanted him to be, as he was, a very successful, rich person, whatever.
Yeah. Well, in reflection and talking with your mom, what were the things that bonded them as a couple, and what were the things that actually tore them apart?
Well, they got married very, very young. My mother was 18. He was 22 or 23. They came from these very rich Jewish families that had come from Eastern Europe with nothing. They started making a very good living in Mexico. So they were both considered like pillars of this community, a very small Jewish community in Mexico. So they had a son and a daughter, what was best. And they both were very cute. I mean, my father was very handsome, my mother very beautiful. They were both rich. They were both intelligent, studied. So it made sense. In paper, it made sense. And then in those days, people wouldn't meet as they do now, travel, live together, whatever. They met each other, went out for 2 or 3 hours during the weekends, and then decided to get married. They didn't really know each other. So that was, I think, a big problem.
And how long did your mother's relationship, or just even a friendship with Carlos, exist? Did they know each other before she ended up getting married?
No, the thing is that Carlos was my father's sister husband. So they got married about 2 years before my mom did. So they did meet at some family reunions and things like that when my mom started going out with my dad. But they got really married. My dad and my mom got married really fast. So they knew each other in some family gatherings. And that was basically it. I mean, it was like, and then they started seeing each other more because since they were two married couples, then they would travel together. They would go to parties. So that's when they started falling in love.
So when you revisit this part of your life and you start your book out with the line, "I've just turned 5. This is the last day of my childhood." It's again, this is at a very young age. How much of that time can you remember, or does it feel like you've had to just piece things together from stories from your mother and from your brother?
Some of them are very vivid. That first moment that you talk about where there's, this round table and my dad is speaking at the phone saying, please, your kids want to see you. Why don't you want to see them? In a fake phone call to my mom. And my brother and I are just looking up and saying, why doesn't she want to see us? And I'm thinking, what did I do for my mom not to love me anymore? Because I think kids, what we do is blame ourselves for things that adults do not. So that's a very vivid memory. That's the first thing I told my dad. How could you do that after 20 years not seeing him? And then I do have many vivid memories, which I mean, I know I have them. I don't know where they come from. Many of them I spoke with my brother. Many of them were memories that were coming back when I came back from that trip and I started speaking with my friends and telling all of my friends the story because they would tell me, where were you for these 2 years? And I was like, no, I was in this trip. And that's when pieces started coming into my memory. It was like, oh, now I remember South Africa and I remember this. So I guess I started putting them together when I was telling orally the story.
parental alienation is a very real thing. So how are you making sense, even as such a young girl with your brother, the story that your father is telling you about your mother, and in conjunction with the constant movement? You know, he's clearly stressed out. He's making all these phone calls. Could you access that at all at such a young age, that I'm processing the story that my father's telling me and we're always on the move?
I think I was, but the thing was that my father tried to make it really fun. So he would say, I do remember, for example, being in Paris and my father saying, you know what? You told me once that you want to see elephants. So now we're going to Africa. Yay, let's go to Africa. And the next day we were, rushing into the airport and to get a visa. So he would try to make it fun and make it seem that it was just a trip and that we were just having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
When things actually, I know, came together and I said, this doesn't make sense, was when we came back, when my mother, because my mother, I mean, in the show, in the Netflix show, they say that my father just turned us into my mother and my mother picked us up. It wasn't really like that. My mom found out where we were, and she went with two, these huge men with guns, and just opened the door and got us and took us away like a real kidnapping. That was the moment when we really felt kidnapped. But it lasted 5 minutes or 10 minutes. We were in the car, we arrived home, and my dog was there. My dad had told me that my dog had died. My nanny was there. He told me that she had left. My room was in perfect condition, my toys, everything. And my mom was crying and really, hugging us and desperate. And I guess in that moment, I was like, okay, somebody was lying. And for what I see, I guess it was my dad. So I think that's when the things just started making sense in a strange way, but started making sense.
So I think a lot of us have wondered as we watched it. By the end, it says that you spent 20 years not speaking. What would that have been like, that first conversation? Because when you communicate with him, you're showing up as an adult, very aware of the choices that he made.
Of course. I decided to go and see him because my grandmother, his mother, was dying, and she had a very bad Alzheimer's. And she was all the time saying, I want to see Tamara, I want to see Tamara, I want to see Tamara. So my aunt called me and she said, I know we haven't spoken to each other in more than 20 years, but my mother is dying and she just wants to see you. She's in Cuernavaca. Would you come and see her? And at that moment, I already had 2 kids. And at that moment, I said, this is the moment to stop this. I mean, my kids don't have to be a part of this war that has been going on for so long. So I did. I went to Cuernavaca. I saw my grandmother. Of course, she didn't want to see me. She wanted to see the little Tamara that had left so many years ago. So she didn't recognize me, but I felt okay. And she died 1 month later. And that's when I decided to go and see my father. I said, I have to go. They were sitting Shiva and I was there. And I said, this is the moment to see him and start a conversation, whatever it brings us to, but we have to start talking again. So then that's when we got together and we went for lunch. And my father was like, hello, how are you? How? And I said, no, okay, stop. I mean, this can't be that way. I mean, you're not my father. It's hard for you to be my father again because it has been too long, and friends I don't need. But let's find some way of relating to each other again. And we started relating to each other. He lived in Atlanta. So basically the communications was through emails. WhatsApp didn't exist. So, and then I went to see him 2 or 3 times. He came to Mexico like every 2 months. And we started a very nice, long conversation speaking about all of our feelings.
And when he kind of explained himself, did you see it differently? Because I know you've said that essentially it's vicarious violence when a parent uses children to hurt another parent. How did you recognize that term in order to help shape your healing?
I started talking to him and he started telling me his truth. I saw that his truth was as true as my mother's. He had his reasons, he had his pains. What he did was out of love, and I could understand that at that moment. I saw that he was very concerned for us to live in a house where our uncle would become our stepfather. He thought that was going to be painful for us. And then he knew that he was an amazing stepfather. Carlos was the best human being I've ever met in my life. And they were the best couple I've ever seen in my life. My mom and him, I mean, the way they looked at each other for 40 years was absolutely the way you want your loved one to see you always. So my dad understood that. And so he said, I'm sorry also. And so we both forgave each other. I knew that his story was real, vicarious violence. I didn't even know the term. When my novel came out in 2020, the term didn't even exist in Mexico. It was something, and I remember somebody calling me and saying, we want to make an interview. We're the Vicarious Violence Institute Against Vicarious Violence. And I said, yeah, sure, of course. And I was Googling what is vicarious violence. And at that moment, there were 800 women in this Facebook Live talking about their experiences. And that's why when I started knowing the term. And yes, it was. Because what I do know, although my dad did it out of love, although he had his reasons, although he was a little bit or a lot pushed by his father, you never use the children. That's something that I, emphasize, because you never, ever use the children for anything. I mean, I think that has to be really the thing to say.
Mm-hmm. Was he acknowledging the pain that he put you and your brother through at all?
Yes, he did. He told me, I know I caused you pain. When I told him about this phone call, which was such a vivid memory, he said, I'm sorry. I know it hurt you very much, but I couldn't stand it that every single day you were saying, I want to see my mother. I want to see my mother. Where's my mother? And, I had to do it fast. So it would be painful just one more time and then stop. And he said, I know I was wrong. And today I would do things much different. But he was 31 years old when this happened. So, I mean, he was also very, very young.
How do you reconcile what happened with moving forward? Because those were 2 years that were robbed of time with your mother.
Yes. Well, I think that was my mom's doing. She's an amazing, amazing, amazing woman. Once she had us with her, she said, life is now and we have to go ahead and we have to do things. So immediately, she never, ever victimized us. She never made us feel like, oh, poor of you. She never spoke bad about my father, which I think is something very impressive. Yeah. She never did. She said, your father is a good human being and he was led by his father, but he shouldn't have done it, but he's a good human being. So that helped my brother and myself get back together with my father afterward and have a good relationship with him because we knew he was a good human being.
Wow. What about your grandfather? Did you see him at all once you returned? And what about your aunt? Because they were both complicit.
Very much so. They were the real enemies for my mother. They were the bad people of the story. So she would always tell us, no, everything's nice. Even your father is good, but Samuel and your aunt are not good people. And it was amazing because my dad died in 2019, just a few months before the novel came out. And my aunt, she had to put all the inheritance together. He had left her with the doing of the inheritance. albacea, we call it in Mexico. And so she called me and she said, your dad left some things for you and come and get them. And they had done some things, some people had done some things, so we wouldn't get it. And she made sure that we did. So at the end, she became even a good, I won't say friend, but yeah, she was really nice. She did what she had to do. We were even partners in some of the things that my father left. So we would see each other quite often. And she was a nice woman. She also died. She died a year ago, sadly, because she was a strong and amazing, I think she had many more years to live, but well. And we came to terms incredibly. We even became like sort of friends.
Wow.
Yeah.
Your capacity for forgiveness is really quite inspiring.
I read once that holding a grudge is like taking a poison and wanting the other person to die. I think Rumi said it. And it's something that has stayed with me a long time. I know that holding a grudge won't do any good. So yeah, I try to hear other people's stories and try to understand that we're all human beings with our dark side, our light side, and we do as much as we can. I mean, so yeah, I forgave. I forgave my dad. And what was more important for me than forgiving him was asking for forgiveness, because I did understand also that first I was a child and I was manipulated. And maybe my mom didn't let me see him that, if I had asked, I don't remember if I did. But then I became an adult and then I got married and then I had children and I didn't look for him. And I didn't even invite him to my wedding or told him that he had grandkids. So I think that I also needed to say, I'm sorry for holding a grudge for such a long time because we missed some valuable time together.
That's really pretty profound, because I think a lot of people that are watching the series, reading the book, and even listening to this interview are going to think about their own families and the complications of it. And at what point do you have to just say, I have to accept that the past is the past, and the only way to move forward is to see that everybody is flawed and deserves a second chance?
I think so. And then also do it for yourself, because when I was burying my father when he died, I remember the moment they were putting him in the ground and I thought, wow, thank God that we made peace together and we forgave each other, because it would have been horrible to bury him and know that there was never again a chance to talk with him. So for myself, it was very, very curative. It was very, very good.
When you think about your life when you got back to Mexico, I'm always interested in people and how they're able to adapt. You had been to so many different countries. You finally get settled in this kibbutz, and then you're back in Mexico. What were the things that helped you as you assimilated back into your old life?
First of all, my mother, as I tell you, my mother, she was so strong and so loving that helped me in contention to knowing you won't be in danger ever again. My friends, whom I spoke to all the time and whom I told the story, I guess I became a writer actually out of telling this story once and twice and three times and 1,000 times to everybody, and knowing that I liked telling stories and I liked people listening and, maybe getting something out of these stories. So that helped me a lot also. My brother, that even though he went to the States very young to study there, we were always very, very united. And we are all the time. And yeah, just having a very nice life. And then Carlos and Valeria being together, for me, it was a perfect family. We had, the father, the mother, the brothers, the sister. I mean, so it was a very nice family, a very loving family. And I guess that helped very, very much.
Did they go on to have more children together?
No, no, they never had any more children.
Mm.
He had his, she had hers, and they didn't want to mix things up.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, his son lived with us. So for a long time, he was like my brother also.
Mm.
And so it was like a very nice family. And when you're young, and then I think that was one of the things that made me not look for my father, because I said, I already have this perfect family.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to mix things up again. So that's, I think, one of the reasons I didn't look for him before.
I wondered too about how this life experience and with it came moving across different countries. And then there's the issues of betrayal and retaliation woven so much through it. How did that affect your sense of identity?
Well, I don't think it did very much, because I think that being with a loving father also helped very much to say, and then being with my brother was very protective of me.
Mm-hmm.
I was 5, but he was 9. So he knew more things and he could see further in the future and try to protect me of whatever would happen. So I don't think my identity, maybe I just got a larger sense of having to have a very strong identity, like
Mm-hmm.
fighting for not losing this identity and not losing myself in feeling like fear or guilt or whatever, just saying, okay, this is the person I am, and thanking this experience, because I do think that I am a better human being thanks to this experience. It could have hurt me, of course, and I must have some scars and things I do, but I do think I became a better human being out of it.
So what has it been like for you to have your book adapted into this series? And let me first say, it is so beautifully shot. The homes in the beginning of the series, I have to know where that was filmed.
The homes were in Mexico, one in San Jerónimo and the other one in Las Lomas, which are 2 very nice areas in Mexico. So those are here, yes. And they are amazing, aren't they?
Beautiful. And then to see actors play out your own story, does it feel surreal at first?
Absolutely, absolutely. And Lucia Puenzo, she's the director. She's an amazing director. I love her work. She has many other films and things, and I really admire her. And she came in to this to the Netflix team and did amazing things, writing the story and trying to put it together and adapting it. And Nico Puenzo, the brother, he's an amazing photographer. So I think they did such a beautiful job. And yes, of course, the other day somebody told me, looking at that for you must be like doing a constellation. I have never done a constellation, but
Yeah.
it does feel incredible. I mean, when they were filming some of the scenes in Paris, the scene of the school, which is a very strong scene.
Mm-hmm.
That for my mother, it's like the worst moment she had. And when I was watching them film that, I broke. I mean, I absolutely broke. I couldn't stop crying. They had to stop the filming. Everybody came to hug me. And then I said, wow, this is amazing that after so many years of talking about the story, writing it, doing the audiobook myself, all of these forms of doing the story, and suddenly watching it was like very, very surreal and very, very strong.
Was there anything that was not included in the series that is an important part of the story to you or special?
Many things. And I like Lucia Puenzo. Lucia Puenzo, when they interview her about the Netflix series, she says, this is a complement to the book. I never tried to make the book exactly as it is written,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't like those type of series where they do exactly the same thing as the book. I think the creativity has to, come out. So what she did was a very beautiful complement to the book, but the book has much more the book actually starts with the story of my grandparents arriving to Mexico from Russia, and what happened to them, because I think that was important to understand who they were before they arrived to Mexico. So to understand why did they react that way. And then there's a lot after my mother takes us back, how I met again with my father, the conversations we had. And finally, there's a moment where my father and my mother meet for a few minutes, and which is the end of the book, and which I think it's really, I love that ending in my book, because it really happened, and it was like, I was like, wow, this is the ending. So yes, I do recommend a lot for people that watch the show and like it to read the book, because I think I have received literally thousands of questions. I'm trying to
answer them all. Sure.
I'm trying to. And most of the questions are about what happened afterwards.
Yeah.
And I always tell them, read the book and you'll find out what happened afterwards.
When you see it all play back, and you also hear other people's, insight, opinions, observations, do you look at your grandfather in a different way?
Yes. And I even do when I wrote the book, and I say it in the book, because I do understand he was very, very angry. And as I say, you don't use the children, but this was the 70s. And in the 70s, a dad could almost do anything with their kids. I mean, he was like the owner of the family and of the kids. And so I think my grandfather acted in a way that was okay in those times. No, he said, I'm going to be the protector. I'm going to do what I think is good for them. And I have the right to do it. And the law also told him he had the right to do it. They didn't even think it was a crime, kidnapping the kids. So yes, I do see him in a different way. I wish for my father that he hadn't done it, because I think the real victim in this story is my father. But finally, at the end, my mother was with us, with my kids. We were all together. We have always been all together. And my father missed all of our childhood and, young adulthood for more than 20 years. So I think although he got married again and he had a new family, and he was very happy with it also. So
what has it been like for them to watch the story play back?
I have no idea. I haven't spoken with them because my father died. So I totally lost contact with them. So I don't even know if they have watched. I guess they have. Curiosity must be stronger than whatever other feeling they have. But I have no idea what they feel.
Well, I just kept thinking too, this, the spider web effect, all the people that are attached to this story, even, generations after, and the friendship between both of your grandparents and how fractured that must have been after. Do you still feel like the families are picking up back the pieces, or do you feel like you've done a very good job of healing the wounds on both sides of the fence?
I can tell you about my side. I think the wounds are all right. My kids met my father, and although they considered Carlos their real grandfather because they grew up with him, they liked my father, and they spoke with him and they were thankful to him. And so I know the wounds in our side of the family are all healed. I have no idea on the other side. I feel they already have they still have some grudges. And I think this book may have caused more grudges, because once when I spoke with my aunt before she died, she said, I'm never going to read your book because that's your side of the story. And I said, of course, this is my side of the story. I told her, you should read it because I think nobody's a villain in this story. And I think that you would like that. But no, she never wanted to read it, and she died before the show was out. So,
and everybody deserves the right to tell their story.
Yes, and I tell them, write your own story. I mean, yes, you if you don't like this version, write your own version, and
that's right. That's right. What would you like for what's the most important thing that you like for people to walk away with?
That nothing is really true, that your truth, you can be sure that your truth is the true truth.
Mm-hmm.
But it's never. And what I think I got out of writing the story and watching the show and speaking with so many hundreds of people during these 5 years, I always tell them there are always many truths to one story. So we can't really judge anything.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know the 360 degrees of the story. And I think I would like very much for people to understand that, because I think if we understand that, we would understand then that in wars, there's no real, country that's right. In fights, in governments, we don't really know what's true. So, and today with these algorithms making us think that, you click something and then you're absolutely true about everything you think, that's really hurtful for humanity, actually. So, for our lives. So that's one of the things I would like, people to get out of this story. And then if it can help them heal their own stories, that would be amazing.
I am just really in awe of your capacity, like I said, to forgive and your ability to take the time to understand every person's point of view is really, I think, what is at the heart of this story. And I really have enjoyed it. And I hope everybody gets a chance to read the book. Now, a lot of people have asked me whether or not there's an English version. How close are we getting to the ability to read this in English?
I hope so. I hope so much. I don't know why it hasn't been done. I've been trying, through the publishers. It's been so slow. I would ask people if they really want to read it in English, maybe just write a note, put it, say we want the translation. If we have many voices saying it, maybe we'll get there faster. And I'm doing all I can to get it, because yes, I've had thousands of people asking for it. So I think, and in other languages also, they, in Portuguese, in French, in Italian,
I'm sure.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So I hope we get there. Penguin Random House is my publishing house. Write something and tell them, hey, I want the translation.
Well, tell everybody, one, where they can buy your book. Tell everybody where they can find you. And are you working on anything else? Or I would assume this has just been occupying all of your time.
Well, I have a new novel that came out in January. It's called I Shall Pronounce Their Names. And it's actually the story of my grandparents. So it's like a prequel of this story.
Perfect.
Saying the story of my grandparents and of all the people that had to come from Eastern Europe in the first half of the 20th century. And they can find me, Tamara Trottner, in everything. I have Facebook, I have Instagram. So people, if they write me, I'm trying as fast as I can to answer every question. So I'm there. And the book is, this is the new, they made this new one with the Netflix thing and the Netflix series. And it's in Amazon, but it's in Spanish.
And can you tell everybody the name of it?
Yeah. Nadie nos vio partir. No one saw us leave. In Spanish, Nadie nos vio partir. I know it's also in some of the Barnes & Noble stores. I saw it in New York, so I think they have it there in Spanish.
Thank you so, so much. I really have enjoyed talking to you. And again, I just really have been taken by this story.
Thank you so much, Katie. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy, and I hope we keep in touch.
We will.
Thank you so much.
The amazing Kate Casey.
I want to thank my outstanding guest and remind you to make sure that you click subscribe. Please leave a 5-star review. Join the Facebook group Reality Life with Kate Casey. You can get my what to watch list of what to watch in unscripted TV every week by going to katecasey.substack.com. You can also get bonus episodes by going to Apple Podcast and Patreon, patreon.com/Kate Casey. And of course, follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram at @KKCCA, TikTok, it's KKC, Twitter, Threads, and Blue Sky at @KKC. You must check back tomorrow for an all-new episode.